Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
Yes, and this is episode number 97, I believe,
We
of
are
the
getting
Hustling
there.
Sideways
Yeah, I know
podcast.
it feels closer and closer each day. This is roughly our 4-year anniversary, and I feel like I've said that the last three episodes. But you know what? Anniversaries don't stop. This is the way I like to put it.
Yeah, are you the person that celebrates like a birthday month?
100%.
Okay,
Yeah, that that
so
that is my. I hope you like would guess that's my aura.
so
Yeah.
then you're then this is
And
an anniversary
for
year
the
guy.
record, we are now. I'm a February birthday, so I guess you got to every time we kick off, you got to start saying happy birthday.
Oh, well then
That's
happy
it.
birthday.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Probably.
Glad I didn't force that out of you, but
No,
here
no,
we
it's
are.
okay. I
Yeah,
mean, I got a 1 in 365 day chance of it being
here
right.
you are.
So
It's
there we
gonna be
go.
wild. The big 3-4, it's coming, and I don't know how I feel about it, but it's got to happen.
Well,
So
as
this
somebody
is
that's already the big three,
that's a
four.
good point. Yeah, you're old. Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Somebody asked me on my birthday how I felt, and I told them this is after a few drinks at a bar.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel 26. And then literally a few weeks later, I kid you not, I met somebody that had just turned, they were celebrating their 34th birthday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, how do you feel? Just as a joke.
And they said
They
26 or
said 26,
that's oddly
the
specific. Yeah.
exact same number.
Oh
And
my
I was
gosh.
just like, just
That's
throwing a
bizarre.
number out
Well,
there.
there you go.
So,
I feel 97, so
oh,
that's
well,
perfect.
I don't
Just to
know.
celebrate this show. That's
Okay.
how I feel.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got you. I
Yeah.
got you. All right. Well, enough of our yapping.
Yeah, let's move on to way more important people in this room. Go ahead.
Way more important. Today, our guest is Tammy Cho. She is a self-love and authentic leadership specialist, as well as a face and body analysis expert.
Look at that. You nailed it. Welcome
And
to the show,
welcome to the
Tammy.
show, Tammy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jim and Alan.
Yeah, for sure. Where are you checking in from a geography standpoint? Where are you calling us from today?
I'm from Vancouver, BC,
Okay,
farthest
Awesome.
province on the on the west coast there. So where are you
sure.
guys?
We're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the United States. So,
Yes, yes.
is this our third Canadian?
Our third Canadian. Yeah, welcome.
We're practically citizens at this
That's
point.
right. We feel like we're part of the family, so that's a good thing.
Our home and native land, for
That's
sure.
right. There you go.
Yeah, we're all connected.
I love it. I love it. Yes. I'm actually, I bet when my family took a trip to Canada when I was like in sixth grade, one of the best. Like
Mhm.
that trip was, and I was 12 and I still appreciated the scenery. The people were, as you know, so nice it was awesome. I'll never forget that trip. It was
I've
great.
never been,
Mhm.
but I, for a long time, considered the Vancouver Film School.
Oh,
Before, yeah, when I was in high school, I got
dang.
a trailer DVD from
Yeah.
them or like
Yeah.
a preview DVD or whatever.
Man, what if you went there?
Hmm.
We wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, we would have met.
Well, there you go.
We would
Glad
have
that
just
worked out. Yeah.
so. Tammy, enough about us. Give us a little bit about your background. Are you from Vancouver? Have you lived there your whole life, or what brought you to
Yeah,
Vancouver?
I'm one of the rare people that actually born and raised here in Vancouver. Like most people I talk to, they moved to Vancouver because it is a very beautiful place. So yeah, this is where I've born and raised and where I, became a nurse for 20 years and now moved over to being an entrepreneur. Still have that, nursing in me for sure, because I feel like I'm doing this nursing 2.0, what I'm doing right now, face and body analysis. So that's really
Mhm.
cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Start us off with your journey to become a nurse. When did you know you wanted to become a nurse, and how, like, what was that like for you and go in school and everything like that?
Well, honestly, I grew up with like my mom having left me when I was a baby, and I didn't really have a lot of confidence. So when I went to nursing, I had this like list that my career counselor gave me, and I literally just ran my finger down it. And it literally said social worker or nursing. That those are the two that jumped out. And I just like decided I would rather, work with people and help people in this way. And literally that's how I became a nurse. Obviously, having said that, I was really perfect for it because I had that energy of care and compassion with me.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I kind of like burned out because I over cared for everyone else but myself. And so, yeah, in my journey of being a nurse, it's been wild because I worked at the bedside and I also worked overseeing the biggest hospital here in Vancouver at that time.
Hmm.
And yeah, but it doesn't matter where we do what we do to climb the ladder and try to be the best version of ourselves in the way we know how.
Mhm.
But yeah, that took a little bit of a impact on my mental health and is a big part of why I do what I do, guys.
Yeah. Well, so when did the inkling start? So I mean, 20 years is a long time to do a vocation and to be part of that. And so was entrepreneurship something you were always thinking about? Was there a day that it popped up? What was that like for you?
You know, honestly, no. No one in my family is in entrepreneurship, right?
Hmm.
So this was a calling. Like, as I was on my own healing journey within myself, I remember going to this healing circle, and literally there was this like download that came in and told me, "You're meant to do this." And I was like, "What's this?" I had no idea, but it came through so powerfully and it shook my body so strong that I knew that I had to take the first step. And literally, when I started my business, I only thing I knew, I'm helping people learn how to feel.
Hmm.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Most people don't start their business saying that. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had to obviously get some help. But yeah, like I mean, I mentioned about my burnout, guys, right? But
Hmm.
when I
Hmm.
was, I had my first baby, and she was lying there on one of those baby Einstein mats on the floor, and she hit one of the dangling toys like for the first time intentionally, which is like, wow, your
Yeah.
baby did that.
Hmm.
But I was like so disconnected. I literally just said, yeah, kids do that. And if it wasn't for this like community nurse that was sitting next to me on my living room couch, I wouldn't have known how disconnected I was to myself.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
sometimes it takes someone else to point it out, I suppose, right? If you're in your own world. And
yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Was that a big, like, I gotta imagine that was a jolt for you to be like, I am not present in this room with my child. Like, was there like a level of guilt connected to that? What was that emotion like for you?
Well, I just like that moment I realized it just like hit me like because I had started a little bit of personal development by that point,
Hmm.
and I had enough awareness to like land within me that, oh my goodness, I'm turning into my mom. Like I'm not physically abandoning her, but I was emotionally abandoning her.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, that like put a fire under my butt. I got to do something about this. I'm not going to turn out like my mom, right? At that time, that was the motivator, right? And I
Hmm.
started like, becoming a personal development junkie. I became an NLP practitioner, really trying to master the mind. I ran masterminds. Like me and my husband, we became millionaires in our 30s. And I was when I slowed down, I'm like, I'm not happy with my life.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Totally.
so I just kept on like going, and I started doing a lot of energy work, healing. I was exchanging healings like 2 to 4 times a week, like because I was learning all these modalities. And
Hmm.
when I slowed down and stopped doing that, I realized everything was still there. Like I still
Yeah.
felt happy and all that stuff. And so I'm a truth
Hmm.
seeker. I don't know about you guys,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I kept on going. And I basically pulled into my life 4 years of deep emotional spiritual healing,
Hmm.
and came across something called psychosomatic therapy. And to
Yeah.
keep things simple, it's like the study of the body, mind, heart, soul together, as is expressed through the body, and therefore the face and body analysis side of things. I literally saw how my body was like yearning for this love and connection, but another part of my body was pushing it away.
Mm.
Sure.
And yeah, just got really real. I had to get really real with myself.
Yeah. How far into this kind of journey of like self-discovery do you really like realize, oh my, I'm falling in love with what this is, and I really want to do more with this, and I ultimately want to help people?
I don't know how to explain this. It was like a deep calling.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Like even through all the pain, it was like there's this part of me that is a small light in my system that just told me I had to keep on going, and this is the way.
Hmm.
I was scared shitless. Like let's not
Hmm.
say like I didn't know what I was doing. I just had this call so strong that I just knew I had to keep taking the steps, and I'm still taking the
Yeah.
steps. And
Yeah.
I
Sure.
realize, through face analysis, because the left side of our face is our inner world, our private world, and the right side is our public face, what we show to the world.
Hmm.
And I literally help people see, yeah, their strengths and challenges that they're maybe struggling with, but also this where we're out of alignment and out of authenticity within ourselves. And it's like, oh my goodness, I get to be that nurse that awakens people. How
Right.
Hmm.
cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just like, I don't know, just like, our journey is always perfectly aligned to who we become
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
open to look at
Totally.
it that way. So yeah, so for me, that's how it unfolded.
For
That's
sure.
awesome.
And so okay, Jim and I were both communications majors in college.
That's
And so we
we
learned,
didn't take economics, and it was
yeah,
great.
well that,
Yeah.
yes. But we learned a lot. I mean, I at least learned a lot about just like physical communication, body language,
hmm
that sort of thing.
hmm
I have to imagine this is kind of a superpower for you when you're in a conversation with somebody, like you're kind of able to read people like a book without even having to really hear much from them, I'm sure, right?
Well, I think hearing the voice also and how they speak is also part of it.
hmm
Hmm.
However, yeah, like I mean, you guys are kind of far away, but usually I'm speaking close to someone. And I will say that, I don't intentionally try to invade someone's space because
Hmm.
this is your energy being, expressed through this physical form. And for myself, if something intuitively jumps out at me and we're
hmm
talking and they're struggling with something, and I ask for permission, is it okay if I share this with you? Something's really noticeable here. Like I just had a call with a connection call with someone, right? And he kept on like pointing his finger, and every time he talked about his what he was doing in his work, he would do that. And I could see that from the shape of his nostrils is like that was different. Like the shape was very different, which spoke
Hmm.
about a lot of anger. And the finger that was, pointing there was his judgment finger. So,
Okay.
and he was in a place that he was kind of stuck and he kept on basically judging himself. And this is, yeah, how it was highlighting on his face. And, I let him know, because he was open. Yeah. And he essentially said, yeah, that is exactly what, I've been struggling
Wow.
with.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah, yeah. So
Now we talk a lot about the importance of active listening and just being present, right? And being that's got to be one of the most critical things I can imagine for you to be there and not be distracted and to be with your client and like I mean I just like did you realize that pretty quickly that that was just such an important part of what you do is to be intentionally with them in that moment and space, and that's probably how you can discover some of this, I'm sure, right?
yeah, like honestly, I feel like the next evolution of humanity has a lot to doing with our level of presence.
No
It's
doubt.
not
hmm
Yeah.
knowing more information, like really, there's so much information out there. It's
hmm
really developing a deeper presence with ourselves. And I can't do that for another if I'm not doing that for myself.
hmm
So all comes
hmm
back to ourselves, as you guys probably have heard before.
That's great.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so now like so it kind of going off of that and going off of like face and body analysis too, like um when I'm in a situation now where we do like podcasts in the same room with somebody
hmm
or I do some sales stuff, so like talking to a client in sales, I have to like catch myself now to like turn my body to be like, okay, like be present, be face,
I'm
you know
with
what I
you.
mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
to be like, I am talking to this person. I'm trying to be in the room with this person,
hmm
like, because I, for a very long time, I would just kind of wander off. Like I'd be talking, but I'd be
Yeah.
looking over here because I couldn't make like eye contact with people. I don't know. It was weird, right?
Yeah,
It was just
yeah.
a very like a nervous
I
tick.
mean, it's this type of like when you're meeting with someone and they put their phone on the table like here, it's like, are you with me, or
Oh
are
yeah.
you waiting for the next, call? And if there's like emergency, that's one thing. But like that happens like often where there's just like always this level of like the next thing, and that takes away that takes away so much of like just intentional human connection, and you have to have that, Tammy. I feel like, I mean, that's like so deeply ingrained. Do you like do the clients struggle with that? Like when they come to, a session with you or have an opportunity to be, with your services, is like, do you have to establish that with them immediately? Is that part of what you do too?
Yeah, yeah, I do like because a lot of them it's they often come to me when they've done all the mindset and strategy and they realize there's something deeper.
hmm
Even then they've done some of the trauma work, they've done some of the inner healing spiritual stuff. They're like, what's different? And
mm
what I tell them is that often they're seeing themselves as someone that's broken or something that needs to be fixed. Often people come with that paradigm of mentality, and if you're always operating from that, it's really hard to actually feel wholesome, if that makes sense. It doesn't matter
hmm
what actions you're taking.
hmm
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I believe people that sort of come see me often they can sense my energy. They kind of know who I am already because it is more vulnerable work. They want to
hmm
feel it out, right? And so in my connection calls, it's just kind of natural. It's just who I'm being as a person. I can't not be this. So
Hmm.
they have a sense of where I go already. And of course I do communicate it.
Yeah.
And I do attract a certain audience that, they really care about that impact and making a difference. And they struggle to put themselves first at some shape or form. And a lot of people I work with, they look really competent on the outside. It's not about competence, right?
Hmm.
It's really around a deeper connection, EQ, if you want to call it,
Yeah.
but also learning how to lead your energy and your state of being, to actually manifest and create what you want. So it's
Mhm.
not one thing, it's like bringing your whole embodiment together.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
We
hopefully
are.
that makes
We're,
sense.
it does. We're powerful beings. I mean, I don't. I think we underestimate sometimes the amount of power that we have over,
Yeah.
some of our circumstances, right? That we can, like, we really dictate a lot of what we do, and I'm sure you find that a lot at work. And I'm curious how, because I know like authenticity is such a big part of what you do. How do you define authenticity? Like what is that in your life? Because I hear a lot of people talk about it, and I think that's a bit of a buzzword. It's a big one that I
Yeah.
use in my work too. What
I
what
was
is
gonna
what is it to
say,
you?
for
Yeah.
context, Jim's whole speech
Yeah,
or to your
yeah.
whole main talk is called
About
being
yeah,
authentically
right.
yourself.
So I'm so curious of like your outlook and how that is in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the simplest form, it's really, allowing ourselves to be the core of who we are. And
Mhm.
when I guide someone through the inner and outer world, it's often through the places that we haven't accepted within ourselves. Where when we journey through it is where we see the truth of who we are. And if we look deep enough into the core of who we are, because we are, spiritual beings in the sacred body, as I believe and,
Hmm.
have experienced in my own way, is that like we are at the core level, we are love, we are abundance, we already have freedom and peace, is that we can't see that within ourselves.
Mhm.
And one other thing I do is human design, which brings in the energy essence and blueprint of someone. So we can literally see, yes, this is the core of who we are as a spiritual being, but we can also link the essence of what we're meant to do and to bring that into, alignment within ourselves.
Sure.
Awesome.
And yeah,
Awesome.
and so that's kind
Mhm.
of how I see this. Yeah, because when we don't allow ourselves to move forward, whatever we're doing, if we're not
Hmm.
filtering it in the energy of who we are out of a place of loving, or however, whatever word resonates with you, that
Hmm.
feels true to you, right? It's like that's where the self-sabotage comes in, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Totally.
I love it.
I feel like there's a level of self-awareness that everybody has, and it varies for sure,
Hmm.
right? I like to think that I'm pretty in tune with who I am, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
and who I really am, like, my real thoughts on things, and I can tell when I'm, trying to persuade myself to not do something, whether it's a business decision, whether
Yeah.
it's a, just a life decision in general, right? Like,
Hmm.
somehow I can always hear that inner monologue being like, okay, you're not doing the thing that feels like you,
It's
right? And I
off.
don't know if
Yeah.
everybody has that.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Is that hard to bring that out of people, with your clients, to be able to be like, okay, you're kidding yourself on XYZ, or maybe you're not really super aligned here, like with your inner monologue kind of thing.
Yeah, I tend to attract people that have the awareness that, I'm doing everything right, but something feels off. Like they can't
Hmm.
always pinpoint it. Like sometimes we're conscious of it, sometimes we're not. For myself, I tend to be able to, because we actually know, we just don't admit it to ourselves all the time. And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
there's another layer that, hey, your body doesn't lie. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing this disconnect here. And then I look at their birthday numbers and I see, hey, this is what it's highlighting. This part of your face is related to your birth numbers. That's kind of why you're having kind of more darkness and problems with this part
Yeah.
of your face and body. So it's actually highlighting for me. And like even the way you walk, it tells me if you're in line with your purpose and on direction with it.
Huh.
So, yeah, obviously you got to be open-minded. You get people that are
Yeah.
looking for soul, that, more usually it comes from the place of the soul, even though it's a non-tangible. So we're not connecting to it in that way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we're looking for at the end of the day.
That's
We're
really
always
cool.
looking to become whole,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
some shape or form.
Now, Tammy,
Yeah.
how much of that knowledge you have is that like did you have to like learn outside of this versus the experiences you've had while doing this work that you've come to these conclusions? Like, is it a combo of both that you knew this going in, that you study this work And then as you're experiencing it with your client, you know, what's that mix like? Like how much are you learning on the job?
Yeah.
Maybe is a better way to ask that question.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Totally valid. It's like, where's this human getting this information?
I love it. I'm just like
Yes.
I'm so intrigued by it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, a big part of it, honestly, was my own journey. What I noticed is that, I believe God, something bigger, showed me through my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And as I don't know, create capacity within myself and released, trauma and things like that, I
Mm-hmm.
saw more of myself. And from that, I was able to be more of a conscious creator. And I pulled in psychosomatic therapy, which was like essentially everything I learned in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way that's very unique through the face and body. And it's very interesting that I used to be a nurse. And so I could make those bridges and everything's perfectly aligned as it is. And
Mm-hmm.
then from that place, obviously working through my clients, but also attracting the mentors that are saying something similar but different, but in different, forms and how they're receiving. So it is a deepening of trusting myself and my intuition and what I'm bringing to the world. If we look at human design, some people are here to bring information, mutate it, and create something new.
Hmm.
The visionaries, right? That's a
Right,
definition of
right.
visionary,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so yeah, like it's everyone's purpose is different, and no one's better than another. And the more we are able to step into who we are as humanity, the more shifts, all those things we see out there that
Mm-hmm.
we don't like, we become a part of that,
That's awesome.
um, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you finding that your nursing background, and you mentioned it there, like do you see a lot of like going back to that expertise and knowing what you learn really relating to this a lot? I bet it does. I mean, I know you just brought up an example there, but how often does that happen where you're going back to something that you learned on the job, like years ago, and then now we're translating here?
Yeah, it's very interesting because psychosomatic therapy, a lot of like our embodiment, right? Things that happen in our body with our breath, for example.
Hmm.
Something easy to connect with is that, we learn about breathing, bringing oxygen, right? And psychosomatics, like our depth and quality of our breathing has a lot to do with how much we're able to actually receive in life.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
So you could relate probably that someone that is experiencing regular anxiety is breathing very shallow
Yeah.
and maybe not very deep and maybe not breathing to the back of the body and anyways, and so this is all highlighting where they're holding on to things in the body, which is affecting the difference they can make out there, and the quality of leadership they step into their life, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, that's a sort of a very simple example.
Yeah. Yeah.
In other ways, nursing also gave me the contrast of what health is not, so
Sure.
that I
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, unfold, so we learn from
Yeah.
contrast as well, right? And
Hmm. Hmm.
so there's a time and place for everything on the journey, depending on our awareness.
Hmm.
Truth changes according to what consciousness we're living from. So let's
That's
stop
great.
arguing with each other and just
Yeah,
recognize that.
exactly.
I
Right.
am totally gonna like overanalyze now everything that I do based on this. Now I'm like even as you're saying this, I'm like, how am I breathing right now? Am
I
I am
was
I
just thinking
good?
about it. I mean,
Like,
from someone with anxiety, I'm over here like that's true. I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on breathing and actually like from the bat. Like I think that's such a like a mindless thing almost in a way, but like you can do it literally every second of every day is to
right.
like focus on breathing, and I think that would take me back to earth. I don't know how many
Well,
times,
you
but you
also
know.
said, okay, so part of your face is related to birth numbers. Is that what I heard, right? Maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I'm not an expert at this, but looking at numerology, everything is mathematical in the universe. And how
Hmm.
it
Okay.
pertains to psychosomatic is that, yeah, it's like looking at your birthday, and it's a calculation that the numbers are connected to different chakras or centers in your system as it
Okay.
relates to particular features on your body. And so that's what I mean when I'm speaking about that, because
Hmm.
Sure.
um,
Hmm.
I tend to, of course, my company is called Pat to the Heart. And so I tend to attract people that have this big heart, but they don't know how to put themselves first, as I mentioned, versus putting it
Okay.
Hmm.
out there. And so I may see different sizes in their eyes. I might see, different amount of fluid or bags under the eyes relative, how open their eyes is relative to their inner versus outer. Like they're giving
Mhm.
people all these things, but not giving it to themselves.
Hmm.
Sure.
How grounded they feel, by looking at their chin. So yeah, so I think I'm going off tangent now, but like, yeah, those are some examples, right? That
Yeah.
it's spelled up in our face. So
Wow. Okay. So much
Yeah.
to
That's
take
so
into the.
cool.
We
That's
are
so
both
cool.
gonna look in the mirror tomorrow morning and be
Yeah,
like, "Oh
yeah.
God, something we did
That
something
right.
wrong."
Did you have a moment, Tammy, when you were really validated by this? You know, maybe perhaps it was like a client that you really felt like you got through to kind of early on in this. And if you had that, what was that like? I mean, I'm sure you had some doubt going into this, and can you actually do it? And what you know, did you have someone or some moment that was like, I'm good at this, and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think what we're meant to do is often the thing that I struggle with it the most. Like it's we're in the
Hmm.
mystery school of what we're trying to offer. And for myself, like knowing myself, my human design, I'm a number two. It means that I naturally do things really well, but I
Hmm.
couldn't see that in myself.
Hmm.
I was very connected in my intuition, but I couldn't value myself. And so it wasn't that it's about the skill. It was actually about deeper self-acceptance in myself.
Okay.
Awesome. Yep.
um
Yep.
it's like, yeah, like, literally one of my programs I created was open to receive, because it literally isn't that we don't have it all. It's often because we're not actually letting it in,
Sure.
which
Oh,
prevents further letting in, if
hmm.
that makes sense.
It
So
does,
Yeah.
100%. It all starts with
yeah.
you. I mean, that's like, I know that's been a message that's reverberated. I mean, it really like that level of, I mean, like deep self-acceptance, and it
Hmm.
really goes into this. And there's a lot of power in that. I mean, I've just, it's thinking about my world, speaking to high school students and college students, and frankly any age, but mostly those two. It truly comes down to them having self-acceptance of who they are, and that's when like the best leaders come out because they're like
Sure.
they're confident, and it's like I don't care what anybody thinks. Like this is what I'm gonna do because there's always this level of hesitation of like, ooh, really, like can I do that? Like looking around, are people
Yeah.
judging me for it? And when they get this moment of like focus up front and then be who you are. And you could feel it. I mean, I'll speak to students, they'll come out and be like, yeah, and then like you see that they were different than the hour before I had them, which is that's
Mhm.
the best. And that's when I'm like, okay, this is like, where and a lot of it as I'm reflecting on what you just said here, a lot of it goes back to like that's how I was when I was 16, was I was looking for someone to give me the space
I was gonna
which to be
say,
myself. And it
yeah,
always goes back to that. And that's why I created an audience avatar of who I'm speaking to is that person. So it's this constant thing of like I always want to inspire that type of person, and
yeah,
that's what keeps me going in the work.
Mhm.
And I think it's really there's a lot of similarities to what you just described there to kind of what I feel when I'm up. So I totally get that, and why I would come back to you, and why that gives you really the strength to continue on. And you probably see this in a lot of people as you're speaking to them that that this is an exercise that's ultimately going to help them and see inside of the more that they can do, and
yeah.
that's got to be really gratifying.
Well, especially the age group that you talk through
Right,
too,
right.
right? Where
Hmm.
it's, that awkward phase of
Totally.
you're looking for everybody else's
Yeah,
approval.
all the
You're not even
time.
looking for your own
Right, right.
approval,
It's all
right?
about the people around you. So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
How like age wise, are folks do you get people like middle age? Like what is your typical folk? And maybe you have a lot of people that are of all different ages, but what types of people are flocking to you?
Well, I would say that mostly female, but
Mhm.
I worked with a 20-year-old male, and I worked with a
Awesome.
70-year-old male. So I think I have
Okay.
quite a range. Like often
Yeah,
sometimes people come and they say they just feel called, like they try to make up this like intellectual reason why they reached out, but they're like, I don't really know. That
I'm
may
not
sound
sure
weird.
why. Yeah, I bet they do. Like, yeah, I had this whole
Yeah.
reason. I'm not really sure. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. It's like, and I answer, I go, just so you know, that's your soul, because
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think our soul is not given voice a lot of the times.
for
sure.
sure.
Now,
Yeah.
as you're building this and developing the business, I would assume that anything that involves, something that is on a deep level, like with what you're doing, right? Like there has to be a level of understanding to it, but I'm sure like you probably have clients that also are trying to vet you even while they're interacting with you, right? And trying to be like, is this for real? Like, so how do you kind of, I guess, reassure people like what you're doing like has some impact? That's got to be a hard part.
Um, well, actually, no, because what I do is that I start off usually with the face so that we can really see each other. It's like
Mhm.
equivalent of 4 to 6 hours of counseling because you see
Okay.
everything literally in one session.
Wow.
And what I do after my coaching, I do a after face analysis so people can see tangibly what happened to their body. Like the
Oh,
exact things that we work on is what is going to shift in the body. And
Okay.
so it becomes, yeah, I know it's so intangible, but yeah, this is one of the tangible ways. Because a big piece of it is that we're not in our body, we're not really feeling, and we're not really fully living and receiving. Yeah, so it's because I get people to drop in their body and feel, they often feel the difference.
Okay.
So
That's great. That's great.
and
Yeah.
because they already have a lot of the strategies to building their business, often like they've
Mhm.
been already hitting their head against the wall. For me, I just open up them energetically so they can let it in. And so they start to have better relationships. They start to make more money. They start to
Mhm.
have more
Mhm.
flow in the way they show up and the type of clients they receive because they're being more of who they are.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it plays
That's
out for
really
me.
cool. Are you finding people, is it referral based? Like a lot of what you do is, people say this, I had an amazing experience, you should go visit, or what is your typical way to find someone to work with?
Yeah, I find I have a lot of repeat customers and word of
Mhm.
mouth. And
Mhm.
currently my goal is to be more visible and get out there a bit more and
Yeah.
Mhm.
actually, you run my programs. Like I was running at a smaller scale. And of course, I gotta play bigger if I want to make a bigger impact. And so that's my
Sure.
journey right now, to really
Yeah.
get out there and reach more people. So
Okay.
Excellent.
Now, is
mhm.
everything in person, or are you able to do virtual kind of consultations? Like, how does that kind of work?
Yeah, COVID gifted me with that because I thought I could only do this on in person. And of
Yeah,
course,
right.
people could send me the pictures and I could zoom in and see things and get people to touch their own bodies if I need that. And that's, helps people connect with themselves. So there's really no downside. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could do it online. Most of my clients are international actually than in
Oh,
person.
wow. Okay.
Awesome.
So that's how it's worked out. So I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Now, in addition to this too, you've got a podcast.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what you talk about on that, and if that's kind of related to the side hustle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's my podcast. I decided it took me a while to come up with the name, as I'm sure you guys could relate.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I ended up what came through was authentic leaders rising.
Okay.
And I think often people, when they hear that, they think it's maybe like stepping into authentic leadership, and it is, but
Hmm.
it's more of coming, like birthing more of who we are, really
Hmm.
inner rising, and it's about like experiencing happiness and joy without having to achieve more.
Hmm.
About redefining what authentic success means. Authenticity. I talk about obviously the face and body, human design, a mixed bag of mastering the inner game.
Wow.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. I love that.
I was gonna
You
say,
came
I
up with a
think
good title.
you got
Yeah.
a guest
You may have someone who would be
potential.
interested in joining you on that show one
Yeah,
day.
yeah, I'd be happy to have you.
That's so
Yeah.
great. I love the word rising, I think, is really cool of that too, because it's
Mm.
like not only are you empowering people to be in their authenticity, but then it's like then we're gonna go higher, with it and get even deeper.
And
And
kind of realize who they are.
totally. I think that's really cool. And for the record, it is tough to come up with a title. I know that took us a couple iterations to
I
figure
think it
this one
was
out.
a couple weeks before
Yeah.
we actually
And
landed on something.
and
Yeah.
all credit to Alan because it was your idea to do that. And so there you go. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll, I'll give credit where it's due. But that's really cool. Have you seen in this context, this question is like every now and then we'll get someone reaching out to us like about a certain episode. They were like this, like I really needed to hear that, like I'm thinking about doing my own journey and like hearing the ups and downs. Do you get like feedback from folks or like what's the reception been like starting that show and how's the experience been for you?
I'm a baby show, so I'm at like I think 29th, 29th
Awesome.
episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
a lot of so I'm still building, I have to say.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I had people reach out from YouTube and things like that, literally about this whole soul thing. I don't know, I feel like we need to talk. And yeah, definitely more viewership and things like
Yeah.
that. But it's still a baby and growing. Yeah.
Good. Stay at it. That baby will become a kindergartner soon. Then you'll be watching him make his confirmation. It'll be eighth grade graduation. It'll be great.
The whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much
Yeah,
for coming on and doing this and
yeah.
talking to us. And now I just feel this need to like overanalyze myself first
I
before
think it's
anything.
I think it's so cool to have I'd like a look truly into like just the aura of people, right? In making having these sessions be so based on just who they are and letting that empower them. And I guess for your business, you've obviously been doing it for a little while. You've been successful. What do you feel like is there something next? Like is there a plan in terms of like more things to offer? What would you like to see come away in the next, let's say year or two?
Like honestly, what's coming through internally is deepening. And going out there is reaching farther, which is
Hmm.
actually
Mhm.
one and not the same. I
Hmm.
know that sounds really intangible, but that's the clarity I have at this time in the new
Yeah.
year, in the sense of really actually impacting leaders more so because that's where it actually filters down.
Hmm.
Because they
Hmm.
want to go out there and make the difference. If I can remove things in the way, that I'm making a bigger difference in that way. So it's really impacting more leaders, if I were to say it in one sentence.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Very
And
cool.
that's it. You want to get your reach out, and you want to impact people.
Yeah.
And that, my friends, is why people have passions.
Yes, exactly.
That's why people do what they do, is they want to reach folks. So
For sure.
that's awesome. Well,
Mhm.
Tammy, thank you for coming on here, sharing your story, and we really appreciate it. And I feel like I learned a ton, and I'm genuinely interested in what you do. I
Yeah,
think it's awesome.
absolutely. If people want to learn more about where to go, or follow you, where's the best place to
Yeah.
go ahead and do that?
You could definitely tune into my podcast, Authentic Leaders Rising. I know for you, Alan, you mentioned about wanting to explore yourself. One of the things I have is also a free 5-part video series to actually look at your face and walk you through a bit of a process about what your face says about your own leadership, so to speak. And so that's
Hmm.
Okay.
something I offer to people. I could provide you the links on the social medias that I'm
Yeah,
a part
yeah.
of. But essentially, my website is pathtotheheart.com, like it sounds.
Very
Perfect. Well,
cool.
you know what, folks? If you look at the description of this episode, you're going to find all of those links, and it's
Yeah,
going to be fantastic. So follow
absolutely.
Tammy, follow us, watch the podcast, watch both, and it's going to be great. Alan, I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to steal your thunder. This is the time when you start talking, so go for it.
We are also the Hustling Sideways podcast. If you didn't know by now, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts as well. We're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram
Hmm.
and TikTok as well. All of those places. So if you're watching for the first time or for the 97th time, thank you so much. And if you want to be a guest on the show, you
Hmm.
can send us an email. We've got an email. It's hustlingsideways@gmail.com, or you can now fill out a form on our Instagram as well, so that you can be on the show and we
We're
can talk
big,
about your side hustle.
we're big form guys in 2025. That's
Yeah,
it. And on
that's the
that
plan.
note, keep on hustling.
We will see you next week.
Peace.